K&C Masterpiece back here on 105 through the Fan. And no, K&C does not stand for Kevin and cycloitis or whatever we're saying. But yes, Corey does have some of the lettuceitis. That is why he has not been with us today. We will check in with him afterwards. But right now, on the Wild Fork Foods hot seat, don't forget, Wild Fork, of course, your go-to number one for meat and seafood. We bring in from the Dallas Morning News, it is Joseph Hoyt. Good morning, afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good morning. I'll be honest with you. If there was a Deadpool for who would get the lettuceitis among the Cowboys beat, I feel like I would have been like the most popular bet.
Sure.
So honestly, the fact that Corey got it first, I mean, I'm a little relieved. It's not on me.
I will be sure to pass along to Corey that you were glad he is not feeling well as opposed to you.
And condolences.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Now, let's start with quarterback. I know you put out like kind of potential what the roster could look like, which of course can be a churn by the day out here at training camp. How much do you think the Cowboys and probably every NFL team in existence would like to go to quarterbacks so they can go heavy somewhere else?
Yeah, ideally I think that would definitely be the case. But I think in terms of this year's roster, and I keep, it's one of those knock on wood things for Cowboy fans. Dak Prescott would tell you, hey, don't make that correlation, right, about, hey, every other year I haven't been fully healthy. But it is reality. And I think that's something the Cowboys need to guard against. And if you look at what happened in last year's training camp, I think there was a lot of optimism about the potential of Joe Milton and what he could be. And, to be honest, I think that the rawness and the potential didn't really come to fruition in terms of the reality of hope where they hoped he would be.
100%.
Yeah. So I think they need to guard against it, and that's why you bring in a veteran like Sam Howell. They're going to duke it out, and I think if Sam or Joe can really prove to them, like, hey, we do trust you to actually start games in case Dak Prescott goes down, maybe they go with 2, but they might do a better safe than sorry thing and have 3.
Do you think it's an absolute guarantee? I know for some of the people in our fan base, they might think this is foolish. Do you think it's an absolute guarantee that Jaden Blue breaks camp on this team?
No, I mean...
I don't necessarily think that either.
And I think, that's my gut reaction, and I think... Kevin, what it kind of goes back to is looking at the last, 20 potential open spots on this roster, 15, 20 spots. And I think there is a lot of room for flexibility, right? I think if you look at the running back position in general, let's say Jaden Blue regresses in terms of the professionalism that they saw from him this offseason. Well, let's just say hypothetically.
Right.
That could be something that would be hard to shake, right? But simultaneously, what if Phil Maffa and Malik Davis played really well and Hunter Lipke had some more carries that kind of...
Hunter Lipke's in. He's good to go, right?
You'd think. I mean...
I would think that. Do you not think that?
Dude, when I did that exercise projecting the roster, like I said, the last 20 spots, I think there's a lot of room for flexibility. I think there's a lot of guys that have to go out and earn spots, and I think that, let's take Hunter Lipke, for example, right? What if Brevin Spann-Ford becomes this just, movable kind of H-back tight end option that they just love?
Interesting.
And they say, you know what, he kind of brings everything outside of, actually carrying the ball that, Hunter Lipke would. So why don't we use that spot there? I think there's going to be a lot of room for flexibility. If you're looking for a storyline to kind of keep an eye on, it's not the sexiest storyline by any means, but it's how does the back end of this roster kind of manufacture itself and who earns spots?
Do you think we should all just accept at one point or another during the season Spann-Ford will be on this roster? He always makes his way eventually onto the roster. I just don't know when it will be.
I think there's a lot of optimism about what Brevin Spann-Ford can be. And to be honest, he's another guy, we talk about Michael Trigg and DJ Rogers as some guys that were draftable grades this year. Brevin Spann-Ford was a guy that was draftable in his class that fell off. They put a lot of money into him. They liked him a lot. I think he's someone from a receiving standpoint that is growing into what they hoped he could be. If you look at the tight end position, last year the Cowboys did not get enough from the seam. Maybe that's Michael Trigg and make some plays in the seam with some of that contested catch ability, or maybe it's Brevin Spann-Ford with that size and that red zone ability. We'll see what happens there.
When it comes to wide receiver, it might be somewhat similar to tight end where, look, injuries, even a week, could really wipe you out of this competition. Trayshawn Holden, Anthony Smith, Jonathan Mingo feels like he's hanging on for dear life. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. How do you anticipate those 4 shaking out, and is there room for more than one or probably just one?
I think if we're looking how the roster is going to play itself out, I wouldn't be surprised to see 5 more than 6. I feel like that would be kind of my initial guess.
Okay.
Based on, especially when you look at the big 3 they got in Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, and Ryan Flanoy.
Yeah. Interesting that you include Flanoy in the big 3. I'm not saying the potential's not there. I totally get it. But That's a little bit of a jump for him production-wise.
Oh, big time. I mean, like, this is still a guy that we talked about that had, I think, 400, 300 receiving yards last year. Like, that's not something significant. But I think talking to people around the Cowboys and honestly just seeing the progression that Ryan Flanoy has, there's a lot of optimism there. I'm kind of bullish on him personally, if we're taking an objective thing. Yeah. And I think it goes back to this. His rookie season, he was a raw, college prospect. Had a lot of ability, but not a lot of, production. Didn't come from big school. He never even had a receiver trainer until his second offseason.
Wow.
So, think about it. And then it kind of took off. He looks bigger. He looks way more confident this year. I think that Ryan Flanoy is a guy that I'm kind of penciling in for 700 to 800 receiving yards this season.
Potential for people like Bullard, Overton, Ogbonya. How are we feeling about, I know everyone's Quinn and Kenny. What about after that? How do we feel about that group?
Great question. And I think it goes back to, and I hate to kind of sound like a broken record here, there's a lot of spots and a lot of things to figure out on
which makes the training camp fun. How excited are you? Sorry to cut that answer off, and I know we'll circle back around. But how excited are you to answering a lot of football questions instead of Pickens, this, that, and the other?
I thought about that. If you go back to last year's press conference, the great Brad Sham, 20.
Can we talk about football?
That was like 20, 25 minutes into the press conference, and it was right though, right? Like we needed to ask some very important off the field business questions. I don't know when the first non-football question is going to happen now. Or the first football question, excuse me. Is it going to be 5 minutes in? Is it going to be 3 minutes in?
I could see that.
I think it's going to be a lot of football today, which I think is exciting and refreshing for Cowboys fans.
Can Jerry handle that? Or is he going to drop a bombshell about, we could always go back and trade for Max Crosby if we want?
Well, he might get asked about that today. Who knows? I think also, we just had the Jalen Carter extension happen before this.
Yes, big-time money right there.
Big-time money. The second record-setting defensive tackle contract of the offseason.
4 for $152 with $106 guaranteed if you miss that.
Yeah, it's a substantial deal, and it makes you wonder, okay, Quinn Williams is signed through 2027. You really like him. What does this guy have to do in order to get a pay raise this year? Or are you going to talk about that at camp? And I think, too, when you look at the Cowboys moving forward, I do think that they want to, for a lack of a better term, utilize or weaponize the franchise tag. I think that they want to use this to the most of their ability. I think they believe this is a kind of way to be flexible with the contracts and the salary caps. And, you start to wonder who the next one is after George Pickens this year.
Right.
Who's the next guy that they strategically plan to use the franchise tag on? 2 years from now, could it be Quinn Williams? Who knows?
And since I kind of cut off the other defensive line answer after Quinn and Kenny, how do you feel about that group, at least at the outset, knowing that things can still change?
Well, they're just going to trade for Vita Vea and call it a day,
right? No. Did you see the betting favorite as the Rams?
Oof. Is that before or after Aaron Donald comes out of retirement?
I don't know. I've been trying to figure that out, too.
Oh, my gosh. That would be an incredible
Just
thing.
think about that for a minute.
Yeah. Fun fact, I once tackled Vita Vea in high school. So,
Shut up.
Yeah.
Stop.
So
we'll get to the rest of the defensive line. Walk me through how that happened.
7 of us hung on for dear life. So I was one of 7.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like taking Agamemnon, to head on. Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Wow.
Yeah, but he played running back before he played defensive tackle.
And you were one of the guys that was
one
able
of the
to tackle
7,
him.
the spectacular 7, as we called ourselves years later.
All right, depth on the defensive line.
Yeah,
I know we've had a couple stop starts there. How do you feel about the depth on the defensive line?
It's one of those things where I feel like it's solid, but I don't know who's going to be the third guy that differentiates himself to be the third most snap count guy among that group. Who's behind Quinn Williams and Kenny Clark? I know that I've heard good things about Otito. Jonathan Bullard has veteran experience, and I don't know about you, Kevin. I tend to, in terms of projecting these kind of things, I tend to sometimes side with the veterans.
I get that.
I think receiver is an interesting one too. Okay, if we're talking about the 5th receiver, would it shock me if Marquez Valdez-Scantling ends up earning that spot? No, because he's been on a lot of teams. He has experience. There's trust there, and trust is such a huge thing with these teams. And veterans usually kind of earn that. But the guy that I kind of am really intrigued to see is LT Overton. From a kind of big end standpoint, I like the ability there in terms of stopping the run. I don't think he'll give you a ton in terms of pass rush ability, at least not early on. But I think in terms of what he could do from a run stop standpoint next to guys like Quinn Williams and Kenny Clark and allow them to kind of play those positions, I think it could be cool.
See, and this is one of many reasons why I probably wouldn't make it in the NFL as a GM. I actually usually go the complete opposite direction. I would be like, hey, Turpin, this wide receiver thing didn't really work out. Let's focus to getting back to being the best damn returner in the league. Holden, Smith, you're in. Overton, in, it's your time. Like, I feel like I would accelerate younger players perhaps to my detriment.
And I would be the same way. Like, I've always had this philosophy. Like, I don't know why teams don't draft a quarterback every 7th round or every 6th round. You never know when you might end up getting the guy in camp that becomes Tom Brady. And obviously that's, it depends on situations and stuff like that. And if you have Dak Prescott, you're okay. But if you're looking for a quarterback, I would throw as many darts as possible every single year. Or if you're looking for guys in certain positions, let's get some more competition. Let's get some youth. But we'll see in terms of how that third one shakes out. It's going to be fascinating.
Now, fascinating is a good way to describe the linebackers and cornerbacks as well. Now, for cornerback, does it, and I've asked a couple people this so far, does it just come down to the health as opposed to the talent? Or do you think it's fair to be concerned maybe about both aspects of it?
I think it's, in terms of how that battle shakes out, it's going to be really interesting because I think everyone pencils in Deron Bland.
Sure.
But I do think, just from talking with people, I think that there's an element that Deron Bland not only has to prove he's healthy, but prove that he can be the all-pro guy that they had before, right? And if you start looking at contingencies and, catalysts and what could happen here, let's just say Deron Bland is solid, right? But let's say Savone Revel takes that step.
Yeah.
Let's say if Kobe Durant continues that momentum from the mini camp and what he did. The Cowboys were so bad last year with getting their hands on the ball, worse than the NFL. They had less pass breakups than the New York Jets, who had 0 interceptions last year.
And I believe the Cowboys' interception total tied a franchise low.
It was second worse than the NFL.
Okay, well,
just that season, yeah. So, I mean, you can't beat 0, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that's something that Kobe Durant brings to the equation. It might be a little Trayvon Diggsy's in terms of like, hey, we're going to take some risks here. We're going to do some things. But he's kind of a new age corner in terms of what Christian Parker wants from what the Cowboys are used to. They don't need the 6'4" lengthy corner anymore. They want someone who can play well in space, take chances, be athletic. And I think Kobe Durant at 5'11" brings that ability.
How important is this training camp for Sam Williams, Maris Leofau, anybody else you think kind of falls in that group of, hey, you contract or no, you need to fight for your spot?
Huge. Yeah, I think Maris is going to be one of the more interesting guys. I think if I was a Hard Knocks producer, right, and I was like targeting specific guys for this training camp who to like follow as on the bubble, like Malik Davis and Maris Leofau, I think would be 2 of the more interesting characters.
Interesting.
Maris, because I think he has a lot of talent. But we haven't seen him be on the field a lot, right? Yeah. And even last year, amidst everything, and I know that he moved outside linebacker this year. He bulked up. Credit to him for that. But even last year, amidst all the struggles at middle linebacker, we didn't see a lot of Maris Leofau. And you kind of just start to question a little bit cynically, like, why, right?
Sure.
And then you move him to a new position, and the Cowboys are very adamant. They believe that this is a good move for him, that this is a better fit for him, that he'll have the ability there to showcase himself. I think we just need to see it.
Do you get the sense that he believes the same thing?
That Maris does?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Talking with him, to be honest, I don't think he would have bulked up like he did. He looks way bigger.
Right.
I don't think he would have bulked up the way he did if he didn't believe that this was the best path for him.
Okay.
He's a smart guy. Like I'm curious to see how he does in this camp with his new position. Is it just a, hey, we're going to throw one last ditch effort here? Or is it truly, we believe that you can be an asset for us at this spot?
And then Sam Williams. I know different person, different kind of scenario, but is he also fighting to keep his spot on this roster?
For sure. And to be honest with you, I was a little surprised, like just objectively, that they kind of brought him back. I was like, oh, and the money makes sense, right? It's not like it's a bunch of money, but this was a guy that, coming off the ACL last year, that they had really high hopes for. He had really high belief in himself that he could turn this into a big contract year, have 8 to 10 sacks.
Yeah.
But we'll see if that shakes out this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to switch gears since we mentioned the linebackers as well. Expectations, or it feels like expectations have built for Barham. What do you think about D. Winters? And then I feel like Shamar James got a bad rap last year because he stepped in at a time you desperately needed him. And then when he wasn't really, really good, people were like, hey, what's his deal? And I was like, did you see where he was drafted? So I guess kind of scatter shooting. Your thoughts on those three?
I think, too, if you look at Shamar James, and I'm more inclined, and maybe that's not fair with what I just said about Maris Leofau, right? But I think I'm more inclined to give him a pass a little bit from last year because of just how messed up everything was defensively in terms of alignment and where things were. If you look at Shamar James, one of his biggest bugaboos last year was that he was making tackles 7 yards downfield in zone coverage, or that he was just kind of a little bit off guys. And you wonder how much of that was communication stuff, or how much was it, hey, we want you to be this far off the ball. This is your zone. Stick to it. I like Shamar James' ability. I'm curious to see what he does. I do think D. Winters is someone that I think people are kind of sleeping on. He's small. He's definitely not, the big linebacker. He's not Jayshon Barham.
He can move side to side, though.
But he can move side to side. And I think that if you also look at where he came from, If you go to the Fred Warner School of Linebacking,
right?
Like, I think there's lessons you can take with you. And Curtis Robinson was also there in San Francisco.
Okay.
In terms of someone who could also kind of pair with him, they have camaraderie there. I think that's a guy who's going to fight for a job as special teams / linebacker depth. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. And DeMarvion Overshone's the biggest X factor. If he can stay healthy, showcase that ability going into a contract year, I think that'd be the biggest thing for this defense.
And then speaking of contracts, my dreams of Bobby Wagner just sitting out there lingering in the ether. We bring him to Dallas.
One
right?
of the questions I think I might have today, unless someone else asks it, is what do you have to see from this roster to not sign a veteran? What do you have to see from the linebacker group to not call Bobby Wagner, Bobby
yes!
Okereke, Von Miller on the edge? You know, I know that he was there. That's not a thing yet, right? But like, what happens if you do need more juice on the pass rush and you can get a guy with a career record like Von Miller? Who knows?
Well, I enjoyed the entire interview, but thank you very much for adding that you might need to ask that question at the very end. Look, I've said before, you've been the hero that we all needed in the press conference. So the pressure is really on today and going forward.
I got to bounce. I got to keep going. I can't, rest my laurels here.
Exactly. I know, obviously, Dallas Morning News. Where else can people find your stuff?
Yeah, at Joe J. Hoyt on Twitter. I'll definitely have a lot of video content coming on TikTok, Instagram, and all that jazz. But excited for another training camp and excited to see how this all shakes out.
Man, and I was excited that you got the chance to join us and we got to see it face to face.
I know, and I did see Corey yesterday briefly, so at least I saw him.
He's here. I can confirm that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Joseph Hoyt right here on 105.3 The Fan.